I'm Adele Sliuzas. I'm the visual arts curator here at The Mill, a multi-arts organisation based in Kaurna, Adelaide. I'm here today with artist, painter and colourist Kirsty Martinsen, and we're going to be talking about her exhibition, Our Lady en Feu, showing at The Mill at the moment. Hi Kirsty.
Hi Adele.
We're going to be chatting a little bit about some of the themes in her exhibition and looking at a few of the individual works as well. You've been practicing as an artist for a number of years, including some time spent studying and working in New York. So I wondered if you could give us a little bit of an introduction to your practice and talk a little bit about your style as a painter.
I feel like I only just learnt how to draw and how to be an artist when I was in New York. The style that the school that I was at, the New York Studio School, is very unique and distinctive. I feel like a lot of people don't ever move from that. I worked for a long time when I came back just in what I'd been trained, and I just kept working in charcoal on paper, in acrylic on canvas, and only in the last few years feel like I've moved into my own space with it. I've been able to step out of that New York Studio School style and sort of use what I've learnt and push it into my own. When I started drawing with my wheelchair, that was the point where I took my learning and drove into something of my own.
It's quite a profound body of work, and you've touched on a lot of different things that have been happening in the world of recent that have had a major impact on culture and society. So can you tell us a little bit about what compelled you to make this body of work?
When the Notre Dame fires happened, I was working on this behind me, the naked crucified woman. At the time, I was interested in the Me Too movement and the growth of that around the world, of how many people came out and said, yeah, me too, and the role of women. When I saw the spire on fire, it just was like, that can be my crucified woman. That is exactly my crucified woman. And from that point on, I started referring to my woman, my lady, as Our Lady, as the burning spire. I started to make a connection between the way people were talking about the fire in Notre Dame and Mother Earth being being inflamed because of climate change. And Our Lady, I started to think of as Mother Earth. Climate change, the Me Too movement, and this woman that I was working on, I just started to see them all connected and think about what our world would be like if Jesus was a woman, and where would we be now? I was very drawn to the colour of the smoke and the flames. They burnt very hot and bright with blue, purple smoke, and it was just extraordinary colour. It burnt so hot and bright was that it was built in oak. That was 800 years ago, it was built in oak. So that whole top floor of the church was called the forest. And I saw connections between climate change now and burning of the forest and burning hot and bright and inflammation. And when the fires happened in Australia, I started to sort of make the connection there of burning forest. Because I was thinking about Mother Earth and being grounded and solid, I started using a red earth pigment in the ground that I painted on paper to then use to draw with pastel. it gives the paper a bit of tooth to be able to draw, to hold the pigment well, but also it's that association between material and the narrative.
For me, it feels like you're putting some of the material of your subject into the painting itself. So there's coming back to the idea of feeling grounded that you were talking about.
Yeah, it's being earthy and
the texture seems really
raw.
important as well, that it's not this flat or smooth surface, just like it's a complex and layered piece of material, as well as being a complex and layered idea that you're talking about.
Yes. I work in layers a lot. I will draw and rub out and draw, and the history of that drawing is really important into the outcome. Any of the work, if you look at it, you can see lots of layers of colours and textures underneath.
Can you speak a little bit about how you have used the pastels?
I came to using the pastels. I spoke about stepping into my own space when I started to draw with my wheelchair. During that process of drawing on paper with my wheelchair, I found big fat pastels that I could hold on to. And that has sort of led on to discovering a whole lot that my friend in France sends me, and I found some in the States, and it has opened up working with pastels for me, which I thought was an area I couldn't do because I couldn't hold on to it. And that's led to this explosion of working with colour and texture and pastels. Beautiful.
And in quite a different way to what you were doing with your wheelchair drawings.
Yes, absolutely. Totally different. Some of them actually have a bit of the tread of the wheelchair drawings.
So you've collaborated on 2 works with Tom Borges, who has a studio opposite yours here at the Mill. So tell us a little bit about how that collaboration came about and what it's like working opposite Tom, and maybe you can say a little bit about the works themselves.
I think Tom Borges is a lovely human being. He's a really good human being and I really like him. And I feel like I have waited 20 years to have conversations like I have with Tom. We often check in and what each other is doing, and I think just through that natural process we've come to work together. Tom has framed these drawings for me. 2 that we've worked on together. One is the pink stripes, which is very Tom Borges, and everybody knows that, on a drawing of Chernobyl for me. And there's another one that is a concrete slab. It's actually really interesting because it's opened up yet another way for me to work, drawing on wood and then lacquering it or varnishing it. I really like the pink stripes on the Chernobyl drawing because it's like biohazard. The other one is clouds on the frame and Tom's cement slab. I feel like it just has such a feeling of looking down on the cement, like he sees it as pavement sort of slab. And it feels like that, and the clouds just are very quickly gone. They're just constantly moving, and there's something, there's a thread of destruction through all of this work. I feel like even now in this period of pandemic that we're living through, there's one drawing of that as well. The way that we have been living is breaking down, and there's a level of destruction in sort of the way we live. Contradictory in that there's this cement, solid ground and something that's gone very quickly. Gaza was being bombed at the same time as Notre Dame was burning down, and nobody was paying any attention to that. Everybody in the world was just looking at, oh my God, Our Lady is burning. And I just thought about how there's like a whole civilization history of humans on Earth is linked back through that area, and that related to the church and what would happen if Jesus was a woman kind of scenario. When I lived in New York, September 11 happened, and while it was happening, I sat down on the street and drew buildings and people and smoke, and those drawings are very valuable now, and they were part of a film that I just made. And there's something about the urgency of what you're experiencing as part of that drawing. It becomes part of that drawing. If you make a drawing from photograph 3 years later, it doesn't have the same intensity of feeling as if you are in it, you are working, you're doing it right now. I don't get another opportunity now, and that's why I feel like this is my best work so far, because the sense of urgency is part of everything I do.
Great. So I think one of the really strong aspects of this exhibition is the relationship that you have formed between each of the works, and you can see it in the colour palette that you've used, that there's this repetition throughout, but also the way that you and Tom have worked together to frame the works and choose those colours, that there's this push and pull, there's similarities and there's differences, and each work sitting next to the other work heightens the work next to it. You can pull out different aspects depending on what work you look at before you look at the next one. And I think a really great example of that is the Our Lady Enfant, the large piece that you have put next to the piece with Tom Bogus's, what's the word for it? The stripe frame.
I like biohazard
stripe frame. That before that pink was next to Our Lady Enfant, the pink wasn't so apparent, but as soon as they sit next to each other, the pink in the big piece just pops with this amazing intensity. And then the work inside the biohazard frame is this dark and brooding Chernobyl work that has this really concentrated bit of energy right in the centre of it. There's a real contrast between the gestural work and energy and emotion that's happening in the larger piece, and then this like really intense work.
The relationship that you just mentioned, Tom was adamant that that drawing or that frame didn't have a place in this exhibition, and he kept trying to take it out. And it wasn't until we put those two next to each other that he was like, oh, wow, it's actually found its place. So I think in terms of the narrative and humans' desire to self-destruct, colour relationship really works very well.